The end. Oh, hi! I've just been recording my podcast. Oh, hey, Dino. Thanks. Hi, Lucy. I'm Makenzie, and I would like a story where I get lost with my brother Tanner, and we find your studio and meet a bunch of the story characters, including you. Me? Looks like I have guests coming. Maybe I should tidy up first. And snacks and drinks. Oh, this is so last minute. Makenzie and Tanner were lost. They weren't quite sure how it had happened either. They had been invited to a friend's birthday party, which to their delight was taking place in a large garden with a bouncy castle, games, and lots of balloons. It had all gone wrong with a game of go hide and seek. Makenzie and Tanner had rushed off towards the bottom of the garden, pushing past bushes and ducking behind tree trunks. They'd giggled with excitement the whole time, quite sure that theirs was going to be the best hiding place of all. But after a moment, they realized they couldn't hear the party anymore or see anyone else. They weren't even sure which direction they'd come from. They appeared to be in a wood and had no idea which way to go. Slowly, they stepped over fallen branches and crunchy leaves, hoping to hear the sound of the party through the thick trees. That's when Makenzie noticed a wall made of stone with an archway leading to the other side. "Is that somebody else's garden?" asked Tanner. I don't know," said Makenzie, peering through the gap in the wall. "I think it might be." The garden on that side of the wall was very neat and tidy. Colorful flowers bloomed on neatly trimmed bushes, and there was a beautiful lawn of green grass. "Let's see if we can find someone to help us," suggested Makenzie, taking Tanner's hand as they stepped through. They hadn't taken many footsteps across the lawn when the trees in front of them began to rustle as if a mighty wind was blowing. But Makenzie and Tanner could feel no wind. The trees continued to sway and shake until eventually a giant stepped out onto the lawn, brushing leaves, twigs, and a couple of squirrels from his jacket.
"Goodness me, what's this?"
he said, looking down at the two children.
"Hello, small people."
Makenzie looked up at the giant as he plucked an old bird's nest from his beard. Hi, she said. "Me and my brother are lost. We were at a party and we can't find our way back."
"Oh, goodness, that's no good now, is it?"
said the giant.
"Well, we need to do something about that. Follow the stony path to the big oak tree. You'll see a house there. They'll be able to help you."
"Oh, thank you," chorused Makenzie and Tanner together, and with a wave, headed off down the path. Buzzing bees busied themselves above their heads, and the children were quite sure that they saw at least 2 pixies ride past on the back of birds. At one point, a hedgehog crossed their path, carrying a basket of mushrooms. "Good afternoon," she said before ducking beneath a bush. "What an odd place," said Tanner. Makenzie nodded and squeezed Tanner's hand, for they had arrived at the large oak tree. And it was large, very large indeed. What was most surprising was that the house the giant had mentioned wasn't beside the tree, but built up amongst its branches. A staircase encircled the tree trunk, and coming down the stairs was the unusual sight of a bear walking on her rear legs and wearing a pink tutu. "Hello, children," said the bear. "Can I help you?" "We're lost," explained Tanner. "Ah," said the bear. "Head on up over those stairs and ring the bell. You'll find help up there." "Oh, thank you," said Makenzie. And so the children climbed the stairs. Arriving at the front door, they found a thick rope that had a little brass sign that said, "Pull me." Tanner did just that. Bells chimed and tinkled throughout the house, and a moment later, the heavy door was opened by a skeleton. "Hi," said the skeleton.
Come on in.
We're lost, said Tanner.
No, you're not, said the skeleton. I know exactly where you are, so you can't be lost. You're right here.
Tanner scratched his head. But we need to get back to the party, explained Makenzie. People might be worried about us.
Oh, don't you worry about that, said the skeleton. We'll sort you out. Come on, this way.
Tanner and Makenzie followed the skeleton down a corridor lined with books, up a flight of stairs, and up to a door.
The light's not on, so she's not recording at the moment. You can go right in,
said the skeleton. Who's she? asked Makenzie, but the skeleton didn't seem to hear. They were going inside. Beyond the door was a recording studio, and there was a lady with dark hair sat on a stool in the middle of the room reading a sheet of paper. She looked up as the children entered. Hello, she said with a smile. Well, what do we have here? I'm Makenzie, said Makenzie, and this is my brother, Tanner. Nice to meet you both, said the lady. I'm Lucy. Makenzie gasped. I recognize your voice, she said. You read the stories on my favorite podcast. I laughed. That's so nice to know, Makenzie. Thank you. Yes, that's me. And the bear in the tutu, she was in the story about the ballerina bear, said Makenzie excitedly. And you're the skeleton that escaped from the museum, grinned Tanner, staring down at the walking pile of bones that had showed them in. The skeleton nodded. And this is where I record the stories, I said. Oh, amazing, said Makenzie. I can't believe we're really here. Oh, how lucky we found you. Can you help us get back to the party? asked Tanner. I smiled at them both. Sure, of course. All we need is a story to help you get there. A story? asked Makenzie. That's right, I said. The wonderful thing about stories is that they can take you anywhere. All we need is the right story for you two, and it should be here any moment. No sooner had I finished speaking when there was a tap on the window. The children were really pleased to see the head of a brachiosaurus looking in at them, and in his mouth there were 3 sheets of paper. I crossed the studio, opened the window wide, and collected the paper with a thank you to the dinosaur. Okay, I said, this looks just like what we need. Why don't you two children take a seat on my comfy couch, and we'll get to work. The children did just that. The recording studio was 2 rooms, and on the other side of a large sheet of glass, Makenzie and Tanner could see a control room full of computer equipment and switches. Operating all the equipment was an octopus. Are you ready, Squidgy Dave? I asked. The octopus held up an arm, curled up to look like a fist with a thumb held upwards. With a nod, I began to read. Makenzie and Tanner were lost. They weren't quite sure how it had happened either, I read. As I continued, Makenzie and Tanner listened intently at how they got lost in the woods at the back of the garden, walked through the stone arch, met a giant, found the big house in an even bigger tree, and then met me. They then heard about how they were asked to sit on a comfy couch. People were always losing things down the backs of couches, and I suggested that if Makenzie and Tanner had lost their way, perhaps they'd find it again between the couch's cushions. Moments later, Makenzie and Tanner couldn't remember if they'd actually crawled through the back of the couch or if they'd just heard me reading about them doing so. But either way, they suddenly realized that they were no longer in the recording studio. They were behind a sheet of fabric, kneeling on grass, and could hear their friends calling their names. Makenzie lifted the edge of the fabric, and the pair of them crawled out from under the table, where the birthday food was displayed. There they are! Shouted one of the children. There was much cheering and laughter. Makenzie and Tanner are the hide-and-seek winners! The rest of the party was full of fun, but Makenzie and Tanner didn't tell a soul where they'd really been or who they'd met. But we know who they'd seen, don't we? The end.
So that you don't miss a single episode, just click that subscribe button.